Hello everybody, back once again. This is Developmental Psychology, and today we're looking at the first video, part one, of prenatal development. So let's get to it. What's required to conceive? Well, it's a good question. The first thing that's required is that the female produces internally healthy eggs, and the male produces internally healthy sperm. Okay. Second thing is that the female has to have unblocked fallopian, also known as uterine tubes, so that the sperm can reach the egg, if there is one. Sperm has to be mobile and able to travel so that it can meet the egg in the fallopian tube. And the fertilized egg must be able to implant on the wall of the uterus, which means that there can't be anything obstructing that. Now, the quality of that fertilized egg and on down the line all the way to embryo has to be adequate. And the adequate hormonal environment in females must be present. Okay? There can be no real anatomical, significant genetic or disease processes that impair any of those processes. An example for males might be someone had testicular cancer, received radiation, is now no longer producing either enough sperm or any sperm. He is aspermic. Female may not be releasing any eggs, any number of things. There may be anatomical blockage within a fallopian tube or both, all sorts of things. So let's look at reasons for infertility, and specifically, 14% to 15% of all women who desire to conceive, which is roughly 5 million couples, are not able to do so. Now, that number one is blocked or scarred fallopian tubes. Number two is egg releasing or ovulation problems. The third is endometriosis, which is a growth of tissue on the lining of the uterus, which actually could be in lots of places, which can interfere with passage of the fertilized egg and then implantation in the wall of the uterus. Male factor infertility, low sperm count, or low motility of those sperm. And then in 12 to 18%, we don't know what the problem is. We don't really know. Can't detect it. Okay? So let's look at some sperm facts. So if you look at the diagram that is in your PowerPoint, you'll see a drawing with some degree of detail of a sperm. And so you'll look at the tail, which we officially call the flagellum. It is a mode of transportation that lots and lots and lots of other animals use for their sperm. And in fact, in some cases, single-cell organisms use this, like the euglena that you may have studied in Introduction to Biology. The flagellum moves by adding energy to plates that move across each other. They essentially build up a potential energy one to the other and then move once the friction is exceeded between two plates, and they snap, and it moves down the tail, down the flagellum. That causes the tail to whip, and that then causes movement. Now, where does it get its energy? Good question. It's in the midpiece. It's in the mitochondria of the sperm. Remember, sperm and eggs are single-celled organisms. Okay? You may remember that in biology that the mitochondria were the powerhouse of the cells. Remember that? And then we have the haploid nucleus. Haploid because it contains 23 chromosomes, not 46, so it's half of what humans who are developed have. And then surrounding that is a series of layers of protection, And at the head, the very end of the sperm is what's called the acrosomal vesicle. And that, in turn, has a number of functions, one of which is to eventually release an enzyme that can eat away at the surface of the egg should it ever reach the egg. When it can, when it is now what we call fully capacitated, and it reaches the egg, it may be the first one there. If it's not the first one there, the ovum actually responds by coating itself and then does not allow any other sperm to enter. That's a pretty cool system. So, sperm is from the Greek for seed, and most animal sperm is microscopic, including humans, about 1/5000th of an inch long. But the size of the sperm is not correlated to the size of the animal. In fact, fruit fly sperm is larger than human sperm. Sperm swim about 1 inch in 6 to 8 minutes, something like that. Some sperm appear to remain behind to guard against competing sperm. Some surround other sperm to assist in their protection from vaginal acidity. And essentially, all sperm look remarkably the same. But remember that you may recall this statistic from biology, but that only about 1 to 5%, somewhere in there, of the volume of ejaculate is sperm. Okay? So about 180 to 250 million sperm are present per ejaculation, but that depends on age. It depends on the health of the person. It depends on the time since the last ejaculation. Now, here's something a little disturbing that often doesn't get mentioned, and that is that there are studies that show that since about 1940, that the average sperm count and the volume of ejaculate have declined significantly. And we don't know why. We're not sure why. Only hypotheses exist for that. Now, one piece of information that you might find interesting is that Denmark is considered the highest quality sperm for a number of reasons: high education, good health, the altruistic motives of donors. They often don't get paid or get paid very little. They're often very tall. All sorts of things that correlate to health make their sperm very interesting and useful, and they have a big market going on internationally for their sperm. And we are still, I believe, banning import from them. In fact, from a number of places because of the mad cow disease that had some connection to all of this, and I don't even know what that is, but the FDA no longer allows it. Okay, let's talk about eggs. Plural of eggs are ova, and a singular is ovum. You have about 1 million eggs when you're born, and by the time of puberty, only about a third of those remain. And most all of those die within the ovaries and are depleted at menopause, which is around 50 or 51 on average for in the U.S. Majority culture. Females release around 300 to 400 eggs across a reproductive lifespan. Eggs are bigger than sperm, so eggs actually you can see with the naked eye. Sperm you cannot. If you looked in your textbook and looked at a period at the end of a sentence, that would be approximately the size of an egg. Interesting. Normally, only one egg is released per 28-day cycle, about 14 days after the start of that cycle. That isn't always true. And yes, it is possible to become pregnant even if you are menstruating, because an egg can be released during that time. It could be fertilized and then be able to implant if the timing was right between the remnants of menstruation from the sloughing of the uterine wall, which is what periods are. Okay? So there are phases of pregnancy. The germinal phase is the first 3 weeks, and then 3 to 8 weeks. So 3 weeks to 2 months is called the embryonic period. And then the fetal stage is 8 weeks or 2 months to birth. Okay? And the rule of thumb is 3 months, at 3 months, that developing human will be 3 ounces and 3 inches. That's not to scale. That might be to scale. No, I don't know what screen you're looking at. And they'll have all the organs, the basic organs in place, mostly. So prior to that, much, much, much smaller. Much, much, much smaller. So only about 50 eggs will reach the egg out of the 200 or 300 million that are initially released. Of those, only one will likely penetrate, and it penetrates by releasing, once again, enzymes that dissolve the surface of the ovum, but also because it's moving that flagellum very rapidly. And so what actually happens is it tears the surface of the egg, and I have a photograph of that, which is an extraordinary photograph that's colorized so that you can see the contrast between the sperm and the egg surface. It's an extraordinary photograph. It's about number 23 in the slides. Okay. Sperm can remain viable for up to 3 days within the female reproductive tract. Could, but only hours if an ejaculation occurs outside of the body. It is almost impossible to get pregnant, even if you took a bath that had sperm in that water from some other individual. It is possible to become pregnant if a man ejaculates outside of the woman's body, but on or near her vulva or vagina. And it is possible to become pregnant even if the man withdraws before he ejaculates, because sperm is released in small numbers prior to ejaculation, official ejaculation. Okay, so methods of contraceptive, I simply want you to understand that they are not what you think they are. What almost all sex educators, including me, recommend is that you use 2 methods, never one, and that one of the methods is a condom, a male condom for a male-female couple or a male-male couple. That's really important. The other possibility is use a female condom, a condom which is large and which covers the vulva and which is highly lubricated and even has a little removable elastic ring in at the bottom, which can kind of pop over the cervix. So we want people to use a condom for usually males, or the female condom. There are female condoms a little expensive. They're $1 or $2 depending on where you buy them. Usually you have to get them online, at least in more conservative states. They're not available everywhere. I want you to remember something, though, and that's you never have to buy any male condoms. Just go to any reproductive health clinic or Planned Parenthood, which is where I go for my supplies for sex education purposes. You can take as many as you want. They like it that you take them. They're free, and they give you good brands like Durex and so on. Okay? So some of the lower level of reliability include things like the withdrawal method, the spermicides, and these are things alone, using these alone, spermicide, female awareness, fertility awareness for females, that's cervical cap, sponge, even female condoms by themselves. And the reason that those are down low is that cervical caps and sponges by themselves may become displaced, and so without the addition of spermicide, that's not a good thing. Female condoms are low on the list only because it is possible for the penis to go next to the rim of the female condom and not in the female condom. That's the reason that those are kind of low. And then male condoms, diaphragms and male condoms are kind of in the middle. Yeah, and what that means is that, well, I'll tell you in the next video. How about that? All right.